Hello and welcome. Oh, now we're live.
Yeah, I see
Yeah,
it now.
it was just a test. We're actually Yay, welcome to our weekly wisdom interview series. I have a very special guest with us today who is going to share with you one way that you can improve your retirement funds by investing in real estate. And Linda and I have talked, and we have so much in common. And
Yes.
both have been in the real estate industry for a long time, and both came from corporate. And she is an amazing coach and certified John Maxwell trainer. So, Linda, just share with us a little bit about how you got started with the rental property and what got you involved with this.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Tammy. It's a pleasure to be here. So for those that are listening, how I got started in real estate as a landlord or property manager was I ended up buying my neighbor's home. And she was an elderly lady who my husband and I kind of adopted. Her daughter, anyway, her family wasn't close by. And so, our grandparents being deceased, we adopted her as our grandmother. And so when her health became started to fall and she couldn't get around as much as she wanted to, she was going to have to go to a nursing home. And so one day I was over there and she said, Linda, she said, would you be interested in buying my house so that I could live here and then I'll just pay you rent? And my husband and I looked like, well, we could probably do that. So we decided to investigate to see what the process was to get that done. And yes, we ended up buying the property and had signed all the paperwork. Unfortunately, she passed away like the week before we went to closing. But her family that came took over the process and they said, yes, they would still let us buy it. And so I still have that property today. My husband and I keep it exactly the way that, she wanted it to be, if she could afford to fix it up. She always wanted a garden in the backyard. So we still have that. And yeah, so I still have that property today and I will probably keep it as long as I can, just out of memory of her and all the good relationships that we had. But having that opportunity helped me to figure out, what I wanted to do from a retirement perspective and plan for the future. And so that's how I got started.
That's awesome. And well, not awesome with the situation of her
Right,
passing away
right.
before, but it's so interesting how circumstances can change what we do and how we do it. And this opportunity that presented itself to you gave you this whole other stream of income and has helped you get to where you are. So share a little bit about why you've continued to invest in the rental properties.
Oh, sure. So, now, we have a daughter, she's 26. And while being in corporate, I was always thinking about, what are my plans, when I'm going to retire, that type of thing. And so worked for a large company and it had good investments, but, I'm always thinking about the future. And so for me, I wanted to make sure that I had something in place just in case, number one, I got laid off. Number two, I was let go because of a downsizing or something else occurred. And so I looked at other investment options. And for me, real estate seemed to be the best return on investment. And so I just continued from based upon what I learned with my first experience and utilize that knowledge and started to invest more and more each year. So, every year company would, give you a bonus. Back then it was called profit sharing for those that are old like I am. And so I would take those funds and reinvest that into rental properties. And so that has helped me throughout my career, maintaining that those portfolios, and I continue to do it today.
Awesome. That is so cool. And I know for those of you listening, if you have questions or even if you're watching the replay, if you have questions for Linda, make sure you type them in the chat. We will get to those and try to answer all of those for you. But I know one of the things people are probably trying to figure out is how do you decide what property to invest in?
So that's a great question. So when I started, for me, I wanted to focus on where I live in my area, something that's in close proximity. Number one, because when you're doing a remodel or renovation, you don't want it to be too far away from home because you want to be able to monitor it. And then two, if I'm going to manage the property myself or have a property manager do it, I want to be able to have some visibility to see, how things are going, keep an eye on the exterior in case there's some changes that I need to make. One of the things I've learned in having rental properties for many years is that even if you have a property manager, you have to be able to manage that property manager. Just don't, let things go. So my husband and I, we make sure that all of our rental properties are kept up very well, and we fix them as if we're going to live them ourselves, because you never know one day what might happen. So that's kind of what I do, and just making sure that I'm no more than an hour away from that rental property. And so that's kind of how I determine the distance of what I want to invest in. But I also look at, do you want to focus on small family? Do you want to do multifamily? Do you want to go commercial, such as like large apartment buildings and things of that nature? For us, we focused on single families, and we do some multifamilies, but they're like a duplex or, or quad or, a 6-unit, but nothing grander than that. I have done some larger, but for now, just that's kind of how my portfolio looks.
Awesome. And, the proximity is so important too, right? So it's, within reach. So if something happens, you can be right there. I do know, my parents have rental properties and they now live here in North Carolina, and they're up in Michigan, and they they buy a lot of, cheaper homes that need fixing up and fix them up and sell them. And sometimes they buy them 2 or 3 hours away. And I'm always like, why? Because then they have to like pack for the weekend, and then they go for the, and it's just not very manageable. And so speaking of manageable, you mentioned, if you have a property manager, so who makes the repairs?
So oddly enough, my husband is a contractor.
Nice.
So it's weird. It's a marriage made in heaven. So I was in corporate for almost 30 years, and he was always a home improvement contractor. And we just went back and forth with, I always had that corporate mindset. And then when I took early retirement 5 years ago, I had the same mindset as he did. And so it was kind of weird because he was like, we kind of like each other now. Because before, he was always like, can you take off the corporate hat and just talk to me? And so, we really do have a good time because we can share. We have commonality now more so than we did before. So yeah, as far as who takes care of them, my husband does. In some cases where we have some that are further out, maybe an hour away, then I do have individuals in those areas that can, take care if there's a roof issue or there's you got to always have a good plumber, a good electrician. So I have found contractors in those areas that support me in those efforts, and they do a really good job. And so, I'm at a comfort level now that I don't have to say, can you send me a picture to make sure that you did this correctly? And I have really good tenants. And so my tenants will, they'll let me know. They'll say, Ms. Jordan, so-and-so did this, but, what about that? So they'll take a picture and, share with me because they want to make sure that it's done right. Mm-hmm. So it works out really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so for those of people who don't have the husband that's a contractor, what do you recommend?
So I recommend, excuse me, that, so I also do fix and flips as well. And so depending upon the location, sometimes we have to hire individuals to help with those responsibilities. So you really do have to do some research, number one. Number two, if you have other friends or colleagues or people that that are in the business, connect with them to find out, who are some individuals that they work with that are really good contractors. If you don't have any of those things, then finally you kind of have to use something like Home Advisor. And I've done that quite frequently because it may be an area that I'm not familiar with. And so I don't know anyone there. So I go through Home Advisor and then I do my own little vetting. But that's kind of what you have to do if you cannot find someone or you're not familiar with a contractor in an area that's far away from you. Number one, I just love Home Advisor because it just works really great. I know some people use Angie's List, and I'm not promoting any business or anything. That's just who I use. And that has really worked for me. And then secondly, if you bought the property through a real estate agent, always go to that individual to ask them if they know of any contractors that you can utilize in that area.
Yeah, awesome. There's networking is key, right? And finding the
Yeah.
right people, asking for
Yes.
referrals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I have a spreadsheet and a clipboard on, in the hallway area. So, okay, these are the contractors that I use. And if someone, moves on or transition or goes out of business, I have to put a new person in the box. But yeah, networking is so, so important.
Yeah, awesome. So what do you recommend for people to buy? Should they be homes that people are already in and renting back, or, go out and buy a home and then find some tenants?
So I do a mixture of both. When I first started, I bought properties that were empty. They were either foreclosed or the tenants had already gone. And the people that owned them, the landlords, just didn't want to be in the business anymore. I would recommend people to buy it either way. The advantage in buying a property when it's vacant, of course, that's the beauty of it. It's vacant and you don't have to work around anyone. It gives you the luxury of remodeling the entire home and doing exactly what you want to make sure that it fits the criteria that you have. When you buy a property and you want to rent it out and you already have a tenant, it takes a little bit longer to make some modifications. What I typically do is I'll ask the tenants, what are some things that have not been done that you would like to see done? And that's really from a cosmetic perspective. And, they just kind of tell me that, most of them just want it painted. They want fresh paint,
Yeah.
People feel good when they can smell fresh paint. And so, I outside of the cosmetic areas, I just make sure that, the electrical is up to code. The roof is in great shape. There are no foundation issues that they need to worry about. They have proper central air and heat, because that's, those are the luxuries that, we all want ourselves. And make sure that the plumbing is in good working condition, because those are things that you have to have. So as a landlord, you have to make sure those 5 areas are covered. And then, of course, as I said before, making sure that, from a cosmetic perspective, that, it's clean, it looks good, you've got fresh paint, you've got the plumbing fixtures all work. And as long as the tenant is happy, then I'm happy.
Awesome. Happy tenant makes happy landlord.
Yes. I always try to treat my tenants the way that I like to be treated. And so I try not to call them tenants. They're more like, they're not really residents, or, I'm trying to come up with a new name, but resident sounds more better than a tenant. Some of them have been with me over 10 years, so they're really kind of like family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You get to know them well, and then they're loyal.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah, exactly. They're very loyal, and they keep the properties nice, and they let me know when something's wrong. And that's really what you want when you have a really good tenant. You want someone who feels comfortable in letting you know that something's broken, needs to be fixed, or whatever's going on with them. They just keep you informed, and so that just makes for a good working relationship.
Excellent. So if someone is interested in knowing a little bit more about how you've built this empire of rental properties and are investing for your retirement and want to do that themselves, what do you have?
Yeah, so they can reach out to me via email at linda@lrj-consulting.com, or they can go to my website at www.lindajordan, and that's JORDON.com, and they can connect with me there. There's also a free 30-minute consult on my website that individuals can connect with me and learn more about, what I do and what I can offer them.
Excellent. Well, it was so great having you on today. I appreciate it. And it's always a joy seeing your smiling face and being able to share with you.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. Good to see you as well.
Yes, thank you all. And for those watching the replay, be sure to check out Linda and share with her. Give us some comments, ask some questions. Let us know what you like about this, what you want to know more of, so we can share more in the future.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.